One of the most underwhelming first class flights I have ever taken. British Airways first class is first class with a twist. The twist being it's absolutely not worth the money. Come along to find out why. As a reminder, I always fund my own reviews and don't inform the airlines beforehand so that I can tell you what I actually think about these experiences. Of course, I try to be as objective as possible, so I'll give you the facts and then you decide if I'm a whinging bellend or if I actually have a point. Today, I'm flying up to Heathrow from Switzerland to avoid taxes. No, not those types of taxes. I'm talking departure taxes, which are astronomical if flying out of the UK, but much lower if flying out of other points in Europe. After a gorgeous morning hop up to London, we pull into Terminal 5. While the other three European airlines offering first class, Air France, Lufthansa, and Swiss, all offer an elevated ground service, such as escorts for first class passengers, British Airways has opted not to do that. In fact, besides the lounge, the experience is exactly the same as for business class passengers when connecting at Heathrow. After a quick mooch around Terminal 5 and the essentials like Boots, M&S, Pret, Huel vending machines, etc., I head to the Concorde room, British Airways first class lounge, not to be confused with British Airways first class lounge, which is in fact not for first class passengers. Are you following? I don't blame you if you're not. As a Concorde room customer, you get priority for the showers, which we do today, and I reserve the right not to comment on these shower rooms. Then it's on to the Concorde room now that I'm fresh enough to be granted entry. This is an inviting, warm environment if you can ignore the ice-cold stares of Britain's elite eyeing you down. Thankfully, there's some respite from that in the private dining stalls, which feature some rather interesting art, and I am cracking up a bit wondering what Jeddah passengers think as they're seated below this. I'm here early in the morning, so we have got a massive breakfast menu to satisfy every Western palate. The friendly servers take my order, and 15 minutes later I am presented with this feast. What a treat. Full vegan English breakfast, avocado toast with delicious roasted tomatoes on top, juicy sweet grapefruit, and an iced soy latte. After eating breakfast, I head out to try and get a seat on the Terrace, which is where any and all av geeks should be sitting. This is the best part of the lounge in my opinion, and probably the best part of Terminal 5 as a whole. I'm offered a drink list out here, which is really extensive as you can see. I go for a BA NA175, quite a name, and sip on that as I get some work done. I wish I had time and room for more food because I'm also offered a look at the lunch menu, which looks fantastic. Sadly, this guy will not be moving mountains with any burgers today, nor will I be indulging in the small picnic-inspired buffet out here. Before I leave for the gate, here's a quick peek at the regular toilets inside the Concorde room. Finally, I rock up to the B gates and wow, do these moody clouds make a nice backdrop for this 777. The plane spotting at the end of the Terminal 5 B and C concourses is spectacular, and as I wait for boarding to commence, I stand here glued to the windows with all the airport dads. Speaking of airport dads, where are your parents from, Oscar?
Sweden, I think.
Well, we have partnered with today's video sponsor, MyHeritage, so we can find out. What?
Where's my passport?
It's only $25 using my code Nonstop for a limited time.
How does it work though?
All you do is a little swab like this, and then we ship it off to MyHeritage. It's that easy.
Nice.
Results are in. Are you ready?
I am so ready. Okay, I'm hoping for something really crazy. Okay, let's see. Oh, shocker. I'm Swedish? What? I'm all over Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Let's see, is there anything else?
What?
Where's my passport?
Oh my god.
Kiitos. I am also Finnish. Okay, I like that. I'm not as boring as I thought. I really should be like the poster child of the Nordics, actually. This is so fun. Oh my god, I love knowing this.
Who is this?
I have no idea.
Your grandparents' cousin.
First cousin.
Let's try to find someone outside Sweden, if there are any. Can we film sort by?
I want to find a Brit.
Let's check UK. A fourth cousin in their 20s in the UK. And the crazy thing is, since they're all on MyHeritage, you can just contact them. You can literally message him right here through MyHeritage. We also have this ancient origins feature where we can see literally 10,000 years of family history. If you want to do this yourself, here's the deal. With my code Nonstop, you can get this kit for just $25. But not only this kit, you get a 30-day MyHeritage free trial, free shipping, and ancient origins all included. The deal is only available for a few more days And by the way, something like this makes a pretty awesome Christmas present. Of course, it's completely private. MyHeritage never licenses or sells your genetic data. So check out MyHeritage today at the QR code on screen, at the link at the top of the description, or in the pinned comment below. The British Airways Boeing 777-300ER comes in a remarkably premium heavy 4-cabin layout with 76 business class seats and 8 first class seats at the very front in a 1-2-1 configuration. These seats are all pretty much identical and can be booked up very fast. When I booked a few weeks before the flight, the only window seat left was 2 kilos, so that is where I am seated today. There is one lavatory in first class shared between up to 8 passengers and the pilots, so you can expect a lavatory ratio of around 1 toilet to 8 passengers. So welcome to British Airways first class. I am pointed to my seat and enter first class thinking, wow, what a nice and modern cabin. This is actually the newest first class product currently flying for British Airways, and you can tell. While I wait for the fun part, the service, to commence, let's take a look around this seat. To our right, we have got our seat control dial, which is a pretty neat way of controlling our recline. Next to our window, we've got our window shade and lighting controls. There's also a little closet of sorts here, a reading light, and below all that, a deep bin with charging ports and our remote. I always love a good lamp, thanks for that, BA. To my left, there's a large closet and storage bin with more space to store things under the ottoman. Clearly plenty of space, which is such a big luxury and something I do not take for granted. I've been lucky to review first class quite a few times at this point, and normally you're led to your seat and offered a drink of your choice all in a matter of seconds. Now here's the worst first world problem you have ever heard. No one greets me or offers me a drink for 20 minutes after boarding because they're all busy chatting in the galley. I'm not gonna die of dehydration here, but in a first class product that costs upward of £5,000 in almost all cases, that should automatically disqualify this from being called first class. When the sweet girl taking care of me finally comes by, she goes, "Would you like any champagne or anything?" So I go, "Hi, how are you? Can I ask what juices you have?" "Yeah, we have orange and apple." "Okay, I will have orange, please." Eventually my juice is served along with a water bottle, some nuts, and my, as the Brits would say, amenities kit. I honestly have no idea what to expect because I have not flown BA first class since 2019, but the passenger next to me is clearly a BA frequent flyer, thankfully not Piers Morgan, but I hear him ask for olives and the response is, "We haven't got any olives today because they didn't load any." "Okay, could I please have the Brut champagne?" "Sorry, this is the only champagne. We don't have any of the Brut today because they didn't load that either." Imagine paying thousands and thousands of pounds for your ticket only to hear that BA couldn't be bothered to load most of the things you expected. Anyway, no more complaints. 15 minutes behind schedule, we push back and taxi straight out to the runway with no holding whatsoever. Heathrow has this magic new departure system. I don't know how they do it because it is unbelievably smooth on a day like this. We are lifting off toward Doha before I know it. As we depart, let's talk pricing so you know what type of prices we are talking for a flight like this. Today, this specific route and flight is surprisingly cheap by first class standards, starting at $4,000 round trip from Heathrow. However, if you originate in Doha instead and take the exact same flights, you are paying almost $10,000. Even if you add a connection from elsewhere in Europe where it's normally cheaper to start, I cannot find any prices below this amount. Luckily, I was able to pay just $1,500. After takeoff, the purser comes by to welcome everyone on board, which is always a nice touch, and as I wait for the seatbelt sign to turn off, I peruse the menu. I think this is a really nice sounding menu, so I don't mean to find something to complain about all the time, but as I said on my Air France La Première review last year, isn't it weird to only have one non-European dish on a flight to the Middle East and no halal markings? We also have a small pre-landing menu and then our beverage list. The wine and champagne list is quite massive, and we've got some truly vintage champagnes here. This is gonna sound so horrible, but I keep forgetting I'm in first class because I got this and I'm like, oh wow, lovely amenity kit. Oh yeah, I'm in first, not business. I mean, it is very nice, but it's just so hard to compare this to kind of what you get on any other airline. That said, I have no idea what's in here, so we should unbox it and see. Maybe the contents are a bit more I mean, I don't know, impressive. I sound so spoiled. I know, again, first class is not cheap. So okay, we have an eye mask, a very big eye mask with a little first class label here to make sure that even when you're sleeping and you can't tell people, you know, that you can't afford first class, you can still show them that you've flown first class. Then we have these farmer style socks that are presented with this hay-like little string. Oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in here. Okay, I'm gonna need to set this all down and I'll show you. Very nice amenity kit overall. The post takeoff service has started with a massive bowl of chips slash crisps, salt and vinegar, the best flavor ever, and I love that PA has it, which makes sense because Brits love that flavor, but this was cracking me up. I didn't know whether to make a joke about it with a crew or not, but this is like twice the amount of tea I've ever received on any other airline. You see how big this thing is? It makes perfect sense for BA again, but just so funny. So I ordered lemongrass and ginger tea because that sounds delicious. Delicious. At this point, I've closed the suite door, making for a lovely, private little judgment-free oasis. Here in C2 Kilo, we're just all points people trying to get more bang for our buck. So guys, it's been an hour since takeoff and my starter is here. No amuse-bouche for me, although I requested it. More on that in a second, but this is part of my special meal. I ordered a vegan meal and this is pretty, I mean, the crew are so wonderfully British because when they served it, they were like, yeah, so unfortunately, as you can see, it's quite small. They obviously know that this is kind of a tiny portion size for a starter in first class, but they did what they could with it, presented it absolutely beautifully. I mean, I think she's French, the flight attendant who's taking care of me. She's so sweet. So I asked her about the amuse-bouche and she was like, oh, I'm so sorry they didn't load one. I'll prepare the regular one for you if you want. There's cheese, but you don't have to eat it. So I was like, that's totally fine. She prepared me the regular amuse-bouche. So I have this. I have my starter, which is sort of like another version of the amuse-bouche. So let me dig in. Just, yes, such a sweet crew. Both of these dishes, gorgeous. Speaking of gorgeous, my main course is here, which is tandoori tofu with a korma curry. Sounds amazing and looks amazing. And as the other flight attendant, not the French one, delivered it, I was like, ooh, this looks good. She's like, I agree, it does look good, but it should do, you know? And I'm just like, oh my God, I love you. So cute. This seems like a big step up, so let me try it. I already had a little sneak taste of the curry itself, so let's see. Nice. Wow. They really made the tofu taste a lot like paneer, actually. Nice dish. I'm glad the meal service got a little bit better. And I was like going through the entertainment system, which I'll show you guys when it gets a bit darker outside. But I just randomly got an impulse to watch Star Wars, specifically Attack of the Clones, which is like the most random choice. But I was obsessed with Star Wars when I was like 7, 8, 9. I've watched it maybe twice since then, any of the movies. So I'm like, let me just, you know, watch it a little bit for giggles. Maybe I'll love it because I loved it once upon a time. So I'm gonna dig in and stop yapping. I actually end up really enjoying it, and I learned an incredibly random fact. One of the crew members told me that the guy next to me was also watching the exact same movie, and then said that they find that Star Wars is the most common movie that people watch in first class. Quite unexpected, I've got to say. What I haven't mentioned is the wait time between courses, 25 minutes from when I finish my starter to getting my main, and here we go, 45 minutes after finishing my main, I have this little slice of cake. Let's see if it tastes good. The sun is already setting, which means we're going toward winter because we're not even halfway to the Middle East. Weird point in the video to introduce myself, but if you're new to my channel, I'm Dan. I've been reviewing airlines for 11 years now. I've flown over 200 different premium products across all the world's best airlines and a lot of the world's less amazing airlines. So when I make a video like this, I'm not just doing it to trash British Airways or something like that. I'm doing it, one, because I need to update my opinion of an airline product, since in this case it's been so long since I flew British Airways first, and two, to show you guys what an experience is like so you can decide whether or not it's worth your hard-earned money or your hard-earned points. And in this case, I think a lot is pointing toward this being potentially the worst value first class in the world, but we'll see when the flight is over how I feel about that. That's just my spontaneous mid-flight takeaway that I'm trying to say before it gets dark and it gets hard to talk to you guys. So let's get this cleared and make the bed. As the crew prepares my bed, I head to the lavatories, which has cotton hand towels, a massive basin, and loads of space. What's not to love about this? Well, this looks nice, doesn't it? Actually, it looks more than nice. It looks freaking cozy. So, wait, I'm not in pajamas. That's stupid. I'm gonna try it on in a second, but we are gonna check out one of the most important aspects of any first class product, possibly the most, and that is the bed. And there is a mattress pad, but if you compare this to even a lot of business class products, Emirates business class, for example, gives you a mattress that's about 5 times as thick as BA gives you in first. Although I will say this is very nice, but for the germaphobes, and I'm a moderate germaphobe, not extreme, but this pillow, the big white fluffy bedtime pillow, I was shocked when the flight attendant took it out, because I was like, okay, where's the pillow? So she opens the overhead bin and pulls out the pillow where it was laying with no wrapping, with this cover on it already. So this pillow that you're supposed to put your face on when you sleep in first class has been exposed in the overhead bin with the wheels of everyone's luggage that they have dragged through the airport, through London. That is literally so insanely disgusting and unhygienic. That's unacceptable for any class, let alone first class, right? One final note, there are no individual air vents, so no temperature controls, and as I always say, if you struggle as a hot sleeper, bring a USB fan. We really need to counteract the negativity here, so let's talk about one of the most impressive aspects, the Wi-Fi. Not only is it free, but it's shockingly fast for a last-gen product. Similarly, British Airways has an extensive selection of entertainment, definitely among the best in Europe. Now you also know you don't need to peruse the whole selection, just choose Star Wars and you'll fit right in. The accompanying headphones are also quite remarkable. Alright guys, it's pre-landing meal time, and I'm getting to try a dish from the menu now, namely the watermelon sashimi, which is so interesting. It's a vegetarian take on sushi, obviously, so it's marinated to taste like sashimi. Let's see how it is. It's giving itsu dish, kind of. And then we have my special meal dish, which I feel like I've been served before at a Heathrow. You guys who've watched a lot of my videos might recognize it better than I do, but let's have a bite. We're about an hour out of Doha, so landing quite soon. Turns out the watermelon is delicious. And now guys, for the main course, we have a bean burger, which looks really nice. Things are looking up. This burger, it is so good. Probably the tastiest thing on this flight. I do not know how they managed to make a bean burger so tasty at this altitude, because that's tough even on the ground, but they have managed. Finally, there's a little rice pudding and mango dessert. Explain why the second meal is nicer than the first. With that, we start our descent into Doha, touching down right on schedule and pulling in to a contact gate. So where does that leave us? So what do we think, guys? I think the pillow at the end is really what did it for me. Until then, I was quite torn, but I was like, putting your face on this pillow is actually illegal. But overall, of course, this wasn't some terrible flight. It's my job to critique airlines, and specifically when it comes to first class, the expectations are obviously very high, especially for an airline like British Airways that charges top dollar for their first class. Even if this was their cheapest route, which it was, it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And having issues like them not loading your basic favorites, like the guy next to me experienced, or as crazy as it sounds to complain about, sitting and waiting for 20 minutes after boarding with no one attending to you because they're chatting in the galley. These things just should not happen in first class. We're thinking about like the pinnacle of service here in aviation. That's why we look to airlines like Singapore Airlines or Emirates or ANA, who set the gold standard for what first class should be. So we're comparing British Airways to these other airlines, and just looking in Europe, if we look at Lufthansa, Swiss, and Air France, the experience will be night and day. I've been lucky to fly all in first class. And of course, even there, you're led to your seat. Someone greets you immediately and takes your drink order and offers to take your coat. And it feels like you're being taken care of, which is what makes first class so fun. So when it comes to the question, is British Airways first class Britain's biggest ripoff? Yeah, for first class, this is not worth it by any stretch of the imagination. Then again, if you can afford it and there's a good deal, sure. I'm sure no one is opposed to flying this, but if the price is equal to literally any other competitor that I can think of, perhaps besides maybe Air India, which we'll get to in another video soon in first class, there literally is no reason to choose British Airways. Okay, maybe if you also have to choose between them and American Airlines and their remaining first class on their 777, then yeah, choose British Airways. But if it's an equal playing field and the price is the same, there's no reason to do this, guys. Of course, I was lucky to get a good deal and be able to redeem points for this. So in the end, the total value of the points I redeemed plus the cash was about $1,500 from Geneva, Switzerland to Doha, Qatar, which in first class is a great deal. You can learn more about it in my Points Master program. I'm not going to talk too much about that now. I do want to remind you that for a very limited time, you can get a MyHeritage DNA kit for just $25 using code Nonstop, so you can find out all about your heritage, find lost family members all around the world, and you'll get free shipping, access to their Ancient Origins feature, and a 30-day trial. On that note, I will see you all for the next video, and until then, as always, fly safe.